I guess a mic would be helpful, huh? All right, wake up, people. This is me. Yeah, I work for Weed Maps. It's great. I've been there about 4 years. So, talking about the secret to enterprise crawl optimization, site reliability engineering. Who has worked with site reliability engineering before? Okay, a few people. That's good. All right, I'm going to have some help today from the Royal Court of Princess Donut. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, you have not read Dungeon Crawler Carl, and you are missing out. You need to check out the audiobook specifically because it's narrated by Jeff Hayes, and it is amazing. So I'm going to get some help from them today, starting with Princess Donut. Princess Donut is one of the protagonists of this book series. She is not a Sphinx cat. She's a, I think, pedigree. She's a show cat. Jamie, do you remember what she is? Oh, Jamie hasn't made it back from lunch yet. Anyway, she's great. I had some help from Magic Friends creating these fake Magic cards about these lovely characters. I do not play Magic, so you can hit me up afterwards and tell me all the things I did wrong. She's going to be a stand-in for AI crawlers today because she is a dungeon crawler. Technical SEO fundamentals. I start with this slide most of the time when I'm talking to stakeholders about technical SEO. I've been using it for 8 years, and I really don't know the origin of it. So if you know where it came from, let me know, and I'll give them some source info. Okay, crawl. I start with this graphic to show if anything breaks down along this process, you're never going to rank in search. So if Google cannot find your web pages, they're not going to show up in the index. If they can't render the content on the page, also not going to show up on the index. And then if you have no index tags, you're blocking in the robots file, you have 17 versions of the same page, also not going to show up in the index. Even if you have the best piece of content on the face of the earth, it will never show up. Things really haven't changed with AI crawlers. Princess Donut. Crawl. The real question is, are you blocking Princess Donut? That's so rude. Unless you're intending to do that, a lot of people, by default, are blocking these AI crawlers from even accessing their website. If you want to be showing up, you're going to need to fix that. Also rendering, Princess Donut doesn't read JavaScript. She's a cat. Similarly, AI crawlers generally do not read JavaScript. So if you've gotten a little lazy in recent years and are like, Google can read it, I don't need to put it in the source, you should probably rethink that. And then finally, indexation has changed. Princess Donut has knowledge straight in her mind. She does not need to consult an index. And so the traditional index is out the window when we're talking about AI crawlers. Okay, I could spend all day talking about crawl, render, and index, but I have 30 minutes, so we're going to be focusing on crawl today. Asking questions like, what are Google and Bing crawling? What are AI bots crawling? Is it the most important content? Are they getting 200 responses? And how is our response time? So, great, crawl is important, more important than ever before now that we have all these new bots to track. So what tools should you be using? There's this obvious one that we've had since 2020. Crawl stats. It shows a lot of crawl stats from the past 90-ish days. Sometimes it won't update for 3 weeks. Who knows why? There's some cons immediately that I could tell you about, like it's only available for domain properties and only segmentable by subdomains. So if you want to see your subfolders, you're straight out of luck. It only gives example URLs, so if you're like, oh, here's all the 404s. No, just example URLs, and of course it's only for Googlebot. And then there's the big question, is this data even accurate? This was a big discussion point in the green room last year at this conference, and the general consensus was that crawl stats is great for trends and helpful for small domains, but the larger your domain got, the least helpful, the least accurate it was. So I decided to put this to the test. On the bottom here is our first-party Datadog logs for a 3-month period, and then crawl request from crawl stats at the top. And you can see there's a correlation here. It's accurate-ish. There is a time in September where there's a spike and a time in October where there's a spike. But you can see that October spike looks way bigger in the Datadog logs. Although you're not really paying attention to scale here on the side, across the board, our Datadog logs, our first-party logs, show about 50,000 fewer requests. So it's pretty clear crawl stats is not a good option for even Googlebot tracking when you have a large domain. If you have a really small domain, it's probably doing an okay job. Again, only for Google though. So you're telling me your website's huge, or you want to track other crawlers. So where do you go? Log files. Do I hear some groans? Yeah, that's real because it's much like the iron tangle in Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's really unwieldy and hard to manage. You have to ask yourself, is the engineering team actually storing the data I need? Most of the time the answer is no. I don't know if you've had the experience of like going through the Screaming Frog log file analyzer info, trying to understand the documentation, trying to communicate that back to engineers, and then them saying, I have no clue what you're talking about. So getting the data you need is often really challenging because they aren't storing it in the formats that you need. Are they storing it for an actionable time frame? A lot of them are storing it for a couple of days, maybe a week. Is that enough data to make a decision? Maybe not. And then finally, can your computer handle the file size, or will your machine explode? I have had issues with at least 2 of the 3 of those every time I have requested log files. So a lot of people turn to cloud crawlers for log file integration. I worked at DeepCrawl. We had this. I refuse to call it Lumar. Botify has this. A lot of other orgs have this capability. And there are some significant pros. Your computer doesn't crash. It's great. You have some third-party support. They know how to communicate to engineers about what kinds of information needs to be passed into their program. And they have awesome visualizations that merge crawl data alongside log data. So you can see crawl depth and crawl rate in a nice, beautiful chart together. But there's also some cons. You still have to overcome the are you storing the right data issues. It's not like these tools magically make this log information exist. You still are going to have to communicate with those engineers. And I experienced this a lot where it would say, oh, your dispensaries folder isn't being crawled. I'm like, oh no, that's really bad. But often I had to determine whether or not something actually broke, Google can't crawl, or is it down because the ingestion pipeline failed? And often it was the latter, and engineers did not want to spend time troubleshooting my tool. They were like, sorry, that doesn't work for you, but I have 15 other projects. I don't have time to fix it right now. Good luck. You're also limited to that tool's visualization. So if you're like, hey, I have this project I want to do around crawl, and I need the visualization in this specific format, you're subject to whatever their product roadmap looks like, and you may or may not get that. And then obviously these tools are quite expensive. They're still really good for merging that technical crawl data alongside the log data, but for monitoring, not so helpful. So what is the best way to get this log info? It is to work with your site reliability engineering team. If you don't know who these people are, you really should figure that out. So let's talk about working with them. They are much like Mordecai from Dungeon Crawler Carl. And he is a changeling. He is the guide generally when they first enter the dungeon. And then he becomes their manager. So yeah, they don't always listen to his advice, but it is very helpful to get his advice because he is a guide and knows way more about the game than they do. So working with SRE, Mordecai's so cute. Who are these people? You've probably talked to them before, even if you didn't realize it. You might have asked them to whitelist an IP address. You might have said, hey, there's some server errors. Can you please help me? Or you might have gotten a spicy email from them saying, hey, quit crawling on the holidays. Quit doing that huge site crawl on 420. I'm not guilty of that. Okay, so why? Why should you work with these people? Their whole job is keeping the website up, secure and fast, keeping you protected from bad bots. They really care about crawl. You chat with these people and they're so excited to get into the details with you. They use logs all day, every day. And here's the kicker. They have super advanced tools that they're already using, they're already maintaining. There's not these like large ingestion issues because the data is right there. And if there is an issue, they're gonna fix it really quick. So how would you go about doing this? Just meet with them. I'm gonna caution this group. We are not the crawl experts. We are for Googlebot, maybe some AI bots, but these are like the God tier people when it comes to crawl. So make sure you're framing them as the experts. We're going to be asking them for things, so we want to be nice. Okay, what resources do search engines and AI bots crawl? That's a great question to bring to that meeting. Say, hey, I'm really looking for better information about like how these new AI user agents are interacting with our site. I don't really understand how Google is accessing specific folders. Can you help me find this information? And then figure out what log tools they're using. Then you want to consult the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. This is a beautiful item in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. It is advice from past crawlers that Carl gets. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but the first rule about it is that you don't talk about it. However, I think it's a nice correlation to documentation, which, you know, AI crawlers don't have, but these log tools do. Datadog has really great documentation, so does Sumo Logic, Splunk. These are all platforms that are pretty common across site reliability engineering use. Review existing dashboards. They probably have dashboards to monitor things. See what the format looks like. See if there's things that get your brain going, and then define what information you need. What bots do you want to track? What time range and what kinds of segmentation? Subfolder, subfolder. And then you build a dashboard. So I created this Jira ticket. It's quite long. Basically said, hey, I want crawl stats, but I want it for all these bots, and I want it within Datadog. And I really want to see what geolocations Googlebot is crawling from, and I want to see things by subfolder, and I want this and this and this and this. And then I met with the site reliability engineers, and they said, oh yeah, we can totally do that. They put together a draft for me. I went in, modified that draft a little bit. They then made a couple more modifications, and at the end, we ended up with this awesome dashboard, and they found ways to store the data much more cheaply because I worked in collaboration with them. I didn't just like go off wild in Datadog. I got their assistance. We collaborated on this together. So here's some screenshots from it. I've got crawls by path and HTTP status. I've got the top 100 URLs for any given status code. So if I see a big spike over here, I can quickly consult it without having to like go down a rabbit hole, which I'll also show you how to do. I can open up any of these visualizations. I can do a nice like 400 error code search, and then I can actually click on any of these items and see like what day it occurred. So it's super, super helpful for at a glance seeing what has happened. I've got crawls to robots.txt. Don't worry, those 301 redirects are for the non-secure version. Crawls by HTTP status code. And then I've got this set up for AI user agents as well. Here's some advice on which user agents you might want to track. There's this awesome blog post that Aida alluded to in SEO FOMO last week, so I put a link here because I thought it was like charts of so many different bots that you might want to consider. But these are ones off the top of my head, like Googlebot, Bingbot. You might want to track like Yandex if that's relevant to your market. Here's the ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude bots. And then as numerous other presenters have talked about, you want to track the CC bot for common crawl, since that's used by a lot of the AI agents for data training purposes. I'm going to be honest, I actually don't have that one in my dashboard yet. So I need to go meet with my site reliability engineers when I get back to the office. And then I would recommend looking into automated monitoring alerts. This is much like the alarm traps in Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I didn't want to, these alarm traps, they play a random pop hit from like the 70s or 80s very, very loudly. Maybe I should have put one of these in this presentation to wake everyone up after lunch. But you should build monitoring alerts, but you don't want an alarm trap happening all the time. That would be rather annoying, so only set it up for critical items. So like, Googlebot hit more than 50% 500s in the past 5 minutes. Oops, that's not good. Or Google got a 404 when requesting the robots.txt file. We set that one up and then had to adjust it immediately because we set it up to be a little bit too, we started getting alerts a lot. And then site reliability engineers got concerned. So we adjusted that one a bit. I'll talk about the other one in a minute. Okay. That's great. Those are beautiful, Rachel, but how are you actually using them? I can see what folders crawled most frequently. I've talked about needing that numerous times, so I've got dispensaries highlighted here, but I can look at any of the other folders that are crawled. I can then go into details here. So here's robots.txt crawls, some 400 responses. I can click on those and actually view the related logs. So I can check what IP address it came from. Sometimes somebody's spoofing Googlebot. They were rightly blocked. But sometimes we just haven't updated things. Oops, we're blocking Googlebot. You want to know that. This one's been pretty big. When we set this dashboard up, I actually determined that two things. A third party kept blocking Googlebot. So we were using this third-party security tool. It was fine, but every 6 weeks to 3 months, Googlebot would start hitting a bunch of 406s. And it was very stressful. It was like, what is happening? So I sent the nice dashboard over to SRE and was like, what is causing this? And they're like, oh, it's this third-party tool. They reach out to the third party. They're like, oh, Googlebot updated their log file or IP address range. And then they were not keeping up with that. So the third time that happened, SRE was like, we need to cancel this contract. There were some other problems we had with them too. I won't name them and shame them here, but we canceled that contract. This was really helpful to have this dashboard because the engineers trusted this dashboard. They knew how to navigate to the logs within this dashboard, and they used that for support to cancel this contract. And then when we created this, we did determine that we were blocking most of these AI bots. So Princess Donut couldn't get her weed fix. It was very, very sad. So we fixed that immediately upon creating these dashboards. It's helpful for reporting on initiatives. So there was a project to overhaul the taxonomy of our category pages. We can see Google pick those up very quickly after the project. And then this is a project I did recently on the strain subfolder. And there's two things here. I got the Googlebot log showing them picking them up, but also Perplexity really increased their crawls to that strains folder. And Datadog actually highlighted here, you can't see it super well on the screen, that pink bar is showing that it's an anomaly. So it would actually be like, hey, Rachel, you should pay attention. There's something crazy going on here. Perplexity finally decided that you had strains on your website. Excellent. That's a great thing to show my boss. This was impactful. Google and Perplexity both found these pages rather quickly. And then this one's huge for weed. So weed is hyper-localized. In the US, it's federally illegal, so everything from putting that seed in the soil to packaging and selling weed at a dispensary has to happen within state lines. And that means the product inventory and the products sold in every state are very, very different. It also means that in states where it's illegal, we've had some issues. So when Google crawls from a state like Idaho, we can sometimes be screwed because internal linking all changes. So it's really helpful for me to know where Google's crawling from, see traffic impact, and make internal linking adjustments in those markets. This has been way more helpful than what we were doing before, which was inspecting the homepage once a week and seeing what that location box was. It does line up with what we're seeing in the log file monitoring, but it's way less tedious. And then this was all the rage 6 months ago. LLM.txt, is anyone using it? So we went ahead and set this up. I got really tired of checking after 3 months because none of them had crawled this LLM.txt. I even linked to it from the robots.txt. Nothing. I asked Kyle on my team to put together a monitoring alert for this because I got tired of looking. And wouldn't you know, on Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, OpenAI crawled it. Did we see any impact? No, none. Don't waste your time with this. Here's some other things you might want to check. Spikes in crawl rate, load time. How soon after publishing is content getting crawled? That's been an unexpected, fun thing to look at. Oh, we posted this thing. Oh, look, it's crawled by everyone. Perfect. Okay, so to recap, we're going to use the system AI to help us here from Dungeon Crawler Carl. I decided it wasn't quite appropriate for him to have a magic card because he's more of the dungeon master of D&D. He's running the crawl. So he'll help us here in the outro. Really, you got to listen to this audiobook series. It's really fun. Log files are your best source of crawl data. Getting them is hard, especially if you want AI crawler data. And working with site reliability engineering is going to be giving you the best results. I'm not saying not to use these tools like Deep Crawl, Botify that merge things. I think there's a use case for that, especially when doing audits. But for long-term monitoring, please, please, please work with your SRE team. You're going to get the best data. I mean, come on. Mordecai's super cute. Your SRE team is great. Just a quick outline of how you would do that. Meet with them, educate yourself, build dashboards, and automated alerts where appropriate. New achievement! If you listen to the audiobook, you would get that. Anyway, your reward, you have created a cross-functional partner. We've had a much better working relationship since building these dashboards together. They understand what's important for my team. I understand what's important for their team, and we're working together on things, such as canceling contracts with bad vendors, or, hey, we're gonna redo the acceptance environment. What needs does SEO have for that environment? So working with SRE is awesome. I would say if you do nothing else, do 3 things. Work with your SRE team. Build a little log monitoring dashboard. Just play around with it. And then finally, listen to Dungeon Crawler Carl. Please, please, people. All right. Get out there and kill, kill, kill. Thank you.